Krakens are majestic creatures and noble protectors.
I'm just Ruby Gilman, normal teenager.
That was probably one of the biggest challenges that cinematography, our layout department, had to figure out. You know, when Ruby's swimming through the ocean, for example, she's swimming at 40 miles per hour. And then, so then you have a small character, Chelsea. I couldn't even tell you how fast Chelsea would have to be able to keep up.
Her tail, you wouldn't even see her. She'd have to be a little blurred.
And then, of course, you know, when Ruby transforms, she's wearing clothes. So we had lots of conversation about, like, would the clothes grow with her? Like, how would that work? And so, you know, we really did have to cheat and hide a lot. And, you know, we used fog to help us. We used lighting to help us. But ultimately, like, I think what we achieved is pretty believable. When we started designing Ruby and gave her these very, like, tubular shapes, Carlos Portolas, who is our head of character animation, really wanted to be able to highlight the contrast of how she moved on water when she was trying to, you know, stand up straight and fit in with the humans, and then how she would appear underwater, which would be super fluid and at home. And so he worked really closely with our rigging team. Normally, you've got points for all the different joints, but they created like 9,000 points so that they could move her arm and have it have that very fluid, curvy bend to all of her movements.
And the other part was really giving this understanding of Ruby's journey. So she's been carrying around this weight, so to speak, of pretending to be a human. And throughout the film, we wanted to build through a way that when she first gets into the water as a giant kraken, she's afraid. She's never been in the water. She thinks it equals death. She's scared for her life. But the second time when she jumps in under her own power, when she's wanting to go, she makes a commitment to try to see. When she rises up as a giant kraken, we feel that weight being lifted. And that her natural place is in the water, especially as a giant kraken. And then going through all the way to the very end where we're looking at her now exposed and open to her friends, where she can dance and then play with that squash and stretch, where she's no longer hiding who she is. There's a couple sequences in the beginning of the first act that we wanted the audience to enjoy that monster movie horror kind of in the lighting. And, you know, there was the real fun. There's a great shot. And I know we were it's like just crossing through some balloons, some helium balloons, when she's trying to get in and she's going on. And then later the balloons are gone and the librarian's part comes in. Small details that we try to give the cinema feel of a horror movie, those little cues. And, you know, that was really the opportunity for us to play with that part of the genre. You know, we have the teen movie and we have a transformation, but those parts of those first act horror movie, monster movie stuff was really exciting.
We went through many iterations for how the story was going to evolve and how we would ultimately have this, you know, dynamic kaiju style battle between Ruby and the evil mermaid. And so because Ruby is 300 feet tall, you know, we needed to have Chelsea be just as formidable as she is. And so with the power of the trident, she's able to transform. And, you know, it was really our art department and our effects team working together who proposed this idea of her, you know, I think it started with a character sketch from Taylor Krakenbull. And they took that and then did these incredible tests of what it would look like to have, you know, 150 feet of water sucked up from the ocean floor into her hair. And then, of course, it became, you know, a complicated dance between effects and lighting to be able to render that. And we also had to work very closely with our story team and our head of layout, our cinematographer, to make sure that we could achieve such an incredible spectacle with the time and the budget that we had.
We were very lucky because you know, Dave Wolver had visual effects, and Lawrence Lee, POV. They worked on the How to Train Your Dragon series before, so there was a lot of shorthand and a lot of knowledge, especially with the water fights and the way that was being rendered in our big final battle. And we just took an approach that we got everybody, almost all the disciplines in one room at the time, to walk through and just constantly look through just boards, you know, sketches, boards on ways where we can produce this at a budget, but also that made it look the best and the most epic for what we wanted. And so there was obviously camera choices with our head of layout, but then there was, the fun of those situations is that it also gives those departments and those disciplines a chance to be creative and bring to the party their artistry. And so that kept on being a dialogue and that we had and really worked through previs, not as much storyboarding, candidly, because the scale was so big of these characters that in storyboarding, we would sometimes be like, oh, that's fine, and realize, oh, if they threw a house, it's like this. So there are certain things, there was a lot of cheats going on. And so really what we got through is working with previs very quickly with a lot of great artists that were laying down tons of footage for us to kind of cut and chop up. So that, I think, was a particular use of that discipline that we couldn't have done probably 5-7 years ago because the rings of previs wouldn't have allowed it.
Really, it came together towards the end of our schedule, and it really was that collaboration of all those different departments coming together and being very strategic about where we were putting the camera, what we were highlighting. The one shot we knew we wanted was the one of Ruby rising up and saving that prom boat as that kind of twist on that, stereotypical image of a Kraken that's normally pulling a ship down. We wanted Ruby to be rising up with the ship. And so that was always the thing we were working toward. So, it was one of the most challenging sequences in the movie, but it was also one of my favorites because I think there's so much exciting action in it, but then the resolution is so heartfelt and really ties all the different stories together in such a beautiful way that, it still gives me chills when I see it.
That both because of where the stories come together and the sweet little love affair between Connor and Ruby, but also the scale of the shot of it rising up and with the water being pulled out by her hair. Pierre-Olivier Vincent, our production designer, really modeled it almost after a coral reef, almost such a reef-like, the way that things are, the way those houses are set on land and on the dock, and that even there's not really a lot of streets. Almost everything's by boat. And there's little canals throughout the entire thing. And that was to give it an environment that Ruby would feel, and the Gilmans, the whole family would have felt at home. And to the other part of that was even the high school. And the one set I just love is the library set, because they had built the high school and the library out of almost like shipping containers, so these metal containers, which makes perfect sense for a port side town that had lots of containers. But what it expired was the idea of when she bursts out of this library that she could tear the thing apart like she's coming out of a cage. That in a traditional house, that would not have happened. In a traditional stone building, it would look like that. So it really helped to land that moment that, sort of a Jurassic Park kind of ripping of steel, that the strength and the size of her could bend steel. And that was not something that we designed the building for. That was something we saw in the building and then storied to it.
I know your secret. You're a Kraken hiding as a human.
I really gotta go.
Oh no.
And soon, everyone will know the truth.
Farron Pearl was a storyboard artist. She was the head of story on the film. And when I came on, Kelly and she was promoted to co-director. And it was really great because Farron, not only because she's a great storyboard artist, but has also had a very good connection to Ruby and a good voice for her in the sense that she could write for her and she could, really find the truth in the Ruby moments, which was very important for us. So that was really a real help to me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, Farron was one of the first people that I wanted to come on the movie because when I read an early draft of the script, I think I just had a sense that she would connect with the tone of the movie, with the character of Ruby herself. And that's a big part of why, we promoted her is because she was always a champion for Ruby. She could always bring us back to what would be the true, authentic version of what this character's voice would be.